Hello and welcome to another Myths and Stories lore short. This time we're going to be talking about the recent cutscene that came out in-game for the end of Season 18 regarding Osiris and Saint and a little bit of Mithrax with the whole Nezarec tea thing.
Yeah. Like chai tea, but darker.
Exactly. We figured that it was an interesting thing to talk about, and we hadn't done an episode over Thanksgiving, so we thought, hey, we'll do a little bonus because we have some things to discuss. So I say let's start with Zor. What was your thoughts as you were watching that cutscene?
So I had a lot of mixed thoughts on this. So at the beginning, when it shows Mithrax and he's like gathering up all the parts of Nezarec and all the stuff, and he's been studying and he gathers all the darkness into this tea that he then feeds to Osiris, and Osiris awakens. I was kind of miffed. So and I'm going to present this thought in the form of a question. Well, a statement and a question. I saw it as like, that was the end of the Nezarec storyline. You're welcome. What do you think, Myth?
Yeah, so I had much the same initial reaction. I had, my initial gut reaction was like, none of this seems like a good idea. As far as like distilling darkness into a drink to feed to a comatose person, like nothing about that sounds like a good
what the
plan.
hell was Mithrax studying that he came to that conclusion? Like, you're talking the Kell of House Light. Like, what did the fuck?
But yeah, I had thought initially, like, and I guess maybe it wasn't a statement of fact at the time. It wasn't well, I guess it's over now. It was a fear of like, oh God, is that it? Like, is that where we're ending with Nezarec?
Yeah. Because I was hoping for like a whole dungeon, a whole like, hey, we're gonna go to Nezarec's fourth tomb and we're gonna find some shit there and it's gonna blow our minds. No, we get dark Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Dark chai tea. God
damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, we get dark Tai Chi too. Yeah. Dark chai tea is what we get. That's it. That's the end of Nezarec.
I just want that Venta Black coffee. That's what wakes me up.
that would literally be the darkest coffee. Like that would be Venta Black. That's exactly what Mithrax distilled there. Like there is no light escaping that. Yeah. So what do you think as far as Nezarec's concerned? Are we going to see more of that?
My gut feeling is that can't be where they end it. And maybe this is just me like making a desperate hope for like, please don't get rid of this really awesome seeming mysterious character whose helmet I've been wearing for like 5 seasons straight.
That's the part that all of you guys, all of our listeners have to understand. Myth is a diehard Void Warlock. And yes. Nezarec's Sin has been his exotic for literally decades. For longer than the game has existed. That has been his I'm assuming you have the is it a wearable one or is it just a little statue one?
I just have it's just a little statue one.
Yeah. Okay. I know they have the wearable I know they have the wearable Celestial Nighthawk.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they haven't gone so far as to make a wearable version of the Sin yet, outside of probably like Etsy or something.
Sure.
But so yeah, I don't want this to be the end of that character, and I
mean the lore entry. The lore entry on the gun. Like, I am becoming one again. Like,
and I trust Bungie's narrative team that this won't be the end of Nezarec. So
it can't be.
I have a feeling that Nezarec, his soul or his consciousness or whatever was probably in that drink because it was distilled from his body parts.
So I think of it differently. I think that it wasn't his soul that was distilled. It was just the power of darkness. Like darkness,
Well,
the
yeah.
power was distilled from it.
But like, well, I guess that's a good point. Like, where does one end and the other begin? Because
Sure.
we've seen darkness has the ability to reassemble and repair.
Oh yeah, with
people
the
via
Rulk. The Rulk, it tried to build back the guy on the Sparrow on Mars, where he was just like, nope, that's not happening. That's a bad idea. Did they try to repair someone else?
I the only ones that stick out in my head are Rulk
Are those two,
and
yeah.
then that Guardian on the Sparrow. So like we know it has some kind of regenerative property, which could explain how it helped, wake up Osiris. But I feel like Nezarec can't just be gone though, and
sure.
The transference, the only transference we've seen of anything dealing with him was via that that darkness. So maybe he was carried along with it. I don't know,
because that's the thing when we break down Nezarec a little bit, with Aramis finding his staff abandoned, like that was his whole thing. Like she found his glaive, Nezarec's oh god, what is it called?
Eris found the
right. Eris found, who did I say? Did I say Aramis?
Yeah.
Yes, the elixir found it all. No, Kel Darkness. It's all the same right now.
Right. Yeah.
So Eris Morn, she found the glaive, Nezarec's. And what's the name of it? I forget the name of it.
Nezarec's Whisper.
She found it abandoned, and that's but abandoned near the pyramid in the moon, which is Nezarec's pyramid. And we know that that pyramid has been there since the Golden Age collapse. Like it crash landed there or whatever. But we never really knew what happened to Nezarec. We got a little bit of understanding what happened to Nezarec during the mid-season cutscene where Mithrax explains that his mother came across Nezarec and felt the power of it, and then cut it up into a bunch of pieces and put it in jars. And they started using these pieces to pull power from, because they had that power vacuum of they were able to channel the light before. Well, channel is a strong word. Yeah, channel with the splicers from the Traveler during their Golden Age, and now they're trying to find something just as powerful to fill that void there. And so they have this darkness. They're using it to channel powers, but like, we don't know what happened to cause Nezarec to just throw down his glaive, or to just be killed. Like the fact that she came across his body, like that's one thing, but like, I mean, for his essence to leave his body seems kind of odd. Like it's because I very much looked at the Nezarec story as very Egyptian, right? Like his body parts were in these urns, these oh god, it starts with a C. I can't remember the name of it.
I want to say it's like canopary jars, something like that.
Yes, canopic.
Yeah,
canopic jars. Right. That sounds right. So it was very Egyptian though about it. Like it very much, and of course it being a pyramid ship. And though you know me, it's not a pyramid. Pyramid has 5 sides. These ships all have 4 sides. This is a tetrahedron.
So the other thing that stuck out to me during the cutscene was Mithrax distilling it, and not the fact that he did, but Saint says that Mithrax studied it because Mithrax stated he was the only one that could see these connections between the different relics, and that they whispered to him.
Dude, that's darkness. Darkness is straight up whispering to him.
None of that sounds good.
That sounds horrible. Like, this is literally what happened to Aramis. Like, whispers happened to her and she gave in, and then that was the end of the salvation I guess it wasn't the end of salvation. I guess it was the salvation for Aramis and the beginning of House Salvation.
And in the scene when they're, describe when they the kind of cards, I guess, that they have in the video when this voiceover is happening, like Mithrax has them floating around him and he's like holding his head like he's in pain. It didn't seem like it was a very nice process, whatever led to this distilling of primordial darkness, as Saint calls it.
I don't even know what to think of it. Like, I'm going with the theory that it wasn't necessarily Nezarec himself, like his soul or anything. I think it was just whatever power of darkness that still existed within these things. That darkness, the tool, right? Because we have light,
the force,
the tool, the darkness, the force. Yep, I think that's what he distilled out of it into a drinkable substance, and then fed it to Osiris. Again, none of that sounds okay.
No.
There's nowhere in this where we're saying, oh yeah, no, that's fine. Like if it was a soul, that'd be one thing. Like that's just crazy talk. But darkness, yeah, no, that's fine. No. Neither one of these sounds good.
Interesting point. We were talking before we started recording about how Osiris, looks very much like the frail, older, mortal man that he is. In that scene, like when he first woke up, but in the promo material for the seasons of Lightfall, we see him in his full getup with the the mask and the feathers and all that stuff. Do we think that this primordial darkness, given its shown regenerative properties, is going to return him to being an immortal just through darkness?
Oh my god. Now? Would he be the first like dark only guardian?
Maybe.
Oh my god. Well, okay, so what about Aramis? Not Aramis. God damn it. I did it again. This is going to be the Shiro-Chi thing again, isn't it? That's what it's going to be for me. Yes. What about Eris Morn? We know that she has no access to light because of the scene where she and Uldren go out to the Shard of the Traveler, and Uldren lights up a golden gun and allows her to pull the trigger on it, and it fills her with joy because that's the closest she's been able to be to the light since her transformation into the Hive Queen, I guess. I don't know what to call her. But we know we know that she has darkness powers. We know that she has access to stasis. We watched her use it in the cutscenes at the beginning of Beyond Light, when she and Drifter and Elsie are running up to the ziggurat. So we know that she can use darkness, but like would Osiris be the first like truly darkness powered pre-guardian?
Right, Eris can channel it and use it via stasis, but she doesn't have it in her in the same way that presumably Osiris does now.
So here's where I'm going to draw. Here's where I'm going to draw a bit of a I guess prediction thing, or kind of a connect the dots thing. They when they first said when Saint first says that Mithrax can see the connections between them, it made me think of Strand, right? It made me think of the way that Bungie describes Strand. So is that darkness that pulling the lines between being the weaver, weaving that space between spaces? I think that's where Osiris is going to come in as the Strand go-to person, right? Like I think
makes sense,
like the way that Elsie was the stasis person. Like Elsie saw this power of darkness and said, "Look, Guardians are going to use it. It's going to happen. They need somebody to guide them. They need somebody to say, hey, it's okay to use stasis. It is a power. It is a force. It can be powerful, but you can't let it overtake you." And so I'm curious, and I truly think that that's kind of where that's leading. I think Osiris is going to be like the main Strand go-to person, and he's going to be the first. I don't know what to call it. A dark guardian. Because I mean, he's no longer a guardian, right? Like he has no ghost. But once you lose your ghost, are you still a guardian?
I mean, I guess being a guardian, one could argue, is just a state of mind.
Right. You're just a protector of. Right. Yeah. It's just a title. That's all it is. So he's no longer a light bearer, but maybe he is a dark bearer guardian.
Maybe so. Yeah. So it's there's more to that cutscene that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I want to go back to your connection with the whole Egyptian theming. Obviously, Osiris's name is very Egyptian themed. And then like the whole Nezarec and the canopic jars and whatnot. So I want to touch on this because we know Bungie likes to pull from mythologies to tell their
Mainly
stories
Greek.
and base their characters on. We've seen a lot of Greek references. So I want to do just a quick little summary of the Egyptian myth of Osiris.
Okay.
I've got a little breakdown I wrote up here, and by no means an expert on this. I'm sure I missed some points, but I'm going to just do a quick breakdown. And there's a couple similarities I want to talk about. So the Egyptian myth of Osiris, Osiris is the descendant of the creator god Ra, who is the god of the sun and light. And Osiris is considered a king/god of Egypt in and of themselves. Osiris has a wife named Isis, who is the goddess of the afterlife and funerals, and a brother named Set, who is the god of deserts and storms and violence. Set kills Osiris. The reasoning is unclear depending on your interpretation of the story. Cuts up his body and scatters it across Egypt in 42 tombs. Set then assumes the kingship. Isis searches for the body parts of her husband Osiris, often described as taking on the visage of a bird, sometimes a kite or a falcon, along with the help of other gods and goddesses, most notably one named Nephis. His body is reassembled and he is revived. Isis and Osiris have a son named Horus. It's implied that Osiris's revival is not permanent, as after this he becomes the king of the underworld, while his son Horus grows to be an adult and threatens Set for the throne. They have conflict over the course of a number of years and trials. Eventually, Horus triumphs, leading to what is referred to as a restoration of the balance of powers in Egypt. So,
okay.
There are some parallels, I think.
Where do you want to start here? There's a lot of parallels.
So, Osiris, descendant of the creator of the world, Ra being the god of sun and light. Our Osiris in Destiny is one of the oldest warlocks we know of, existing since at least prior to the Battle of Six Fronts.
Yep.
Has a very strong association with solar light.
Absolutely.
He creates his solar echoes. Like everything he does is solar.
I mean, in the one scene, he pulls out a blade and does 2 slashes and then slams it in the ground to make a well. And I'm still saying, he and Ikora are the only 2 that have gone from one super to another instantaneously.
Like, someone needs to get Battle Eye on their PCs.
What in the hell is wrong with Bungie? Just go talk to those 2 and tell them to stop cheating. For the love of God.
So, our Osiris in game is in a relationship with Saint 14. Saint is often symbolized by a pigeon and has a great liking for birds in general. Isis, the Egyptian Osiris's wife, being symbolized by various birds, depending on the translation. So there's a little bit of a connection there.
Absolutely.
Saint 14 is also the one that presides over the Guardian's funeral in the Corridors of Time event. And Isis, the Egyptian Osiris's wife, was the goddess of funeral rites. So, again, some loose connections.
Yeah.
Set is described as a god of violence, which you could say is comparable to Shivu Arath as the hive god of war.
Sure.
Also, Shivu Arath is the one that kills Sagira. Specifically, Shivu's celebrant is the one that kills Sagira, which is, it didn't kill Osiris as intended, but kind of killed Osiris because that's the event that led to his possession from Savathun.
Killed the light bearer, Osiris.
Yeah. So you have the Shivu, the god of war killing, quote unquote, Osiris, which kind of is the same as Set killing the Egyptian Osiris.
Yeah.
Now the whole like Set usurps the throne from Osiris after his death is kind of a weird one. If we want to draw a parallel here, we could say that maybe this is Savathun assuming Osiris's body.
That's what I was thinking of.
Is just a reference to Shivu Arath now being like the last hive god that's on the side of the witness.
Oh, sure. I didn't think of that either, but that's absolutely a truth.
Yeah. So I think you could maybe draw a parallel there. So our Osiris is possessed by Savathun and then left comatose. We could maybe argue that Savathun could be seen as the Nephthys goddess here, as Nephthys was the one that searched for the body pieces with Isis in the Egyptian myth. Here, Savathun kind of protected Osiris, even though she had control of his body. And Savathun is the sister of the god of war in the Destiny universe, whereas Nephthys was the sister of Set in the Egyptian telling.
Yeah, I could see the parallels there.
So Osiris is revived in Destiny from his coma by the relics of Nezarec being found and coming together, and then being found by the Guardian and then being distilled by Mithrax. We could say this is similar to Isis and Nephthys going out and finding the pieces of the Egyptian Osiris and the various gods that played a part in bringing those pieces together to then be revived.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at in game. Where things get a little interesting is this concept of Horus. Yeah. Osiris and Isis's son in the Egyptian telling. So if we want to try and speculate on the future here, using this myth as kind of a baseline. So obviously I don't think we can take it literal that Osiris is going to have a son in the Destiny universe.
That'd
however,
be cute, though.
Osiris does have what you could argue is a spiritual son, or someone that he took on a parental attachment to as Savathun, and that's Crow.
Yeah.
And Horus is depicted as a falcon in a lot of the Egyptian iconography. Aldrin is a crow, and Aldrin is guided by depicted as a hawk, and is guided by a golden hawk from the Traveler to find Hawkmoon the gun.
Right.
And, having that kind of parental connection to Osiris, although who knows, that's kind of up in the air now.
That's the whole thing, is like when Crow got all of his memories back, it was still like a questionable thing. Like even Crow was like, how much of that relationship was real? How much of that relationship was Osiris mentoring him, and how much of that was Savathun coaching him?
Yeah.
Like and they're two very different things. Like if he sees it as Osiris mentoring him to be a better guardian, to be a better light bearer, or does he see it as Savathun using him and like coaching him into what her ultimate plans are? Like it's a super iffy thing that goes on there, because that's obviously like the next thing that I want to see is the interaction between Crow and Osiris.
Yes. Yeah. And so if we follow that idea that maybe Crow is Horus, is the Horus analog, Horus in the Egyptian telling is the one that challenges and defeats Set and restores balance to the
brings you were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not destroy it.
So maybe that's indicating that
Destiny is just Star Wars.
Right, yeah. But maybe this is indicating that Crow ends up being the one to finish off Shivu Arath in the Destiny
I can
universe.
see that. So I saw it as like two ways. I saw it as either Crow being that spiritual son, or us, the Guardian, being that spiritual son.
Yeah, maybe so. The other theory that I think is less likely but more interesting is if we, so, the son of Osiris was from the joint efforts, let's say, of Isis and Osiris. If Saint is the Isis analog and Osiris is Osiris, Saint giving the darkness tea to revive Osiris, maybe the birth of Horus is metaphorical, and it is whatever new power has been born in Osiris.
Oh, sure.
And maybe now that power is what grows over time, and then eventually gives Osiris the ability to directly challenge Shivu Arath and take his revenge. Or
I like that
perhaps
idea too.
It's not just power. Perhaps, as we were talking about before, maybe it's Nezarec is in Osiris, and they're going to have to struggle or figure out some way of cohabitating in a body. And
Man,
Nezarec is what
Osiris
is going to be the...
is possessed by another damn being, Osiris is getting the shit into the stick here.
Hey, I mean, you drink darkness tea, bad
shit's going to happen. Well, maybe not bad shit. Shit is going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't just sit there and wring darkness out of the bones of this long dead disciple and expect things to go okay.
I thought of it as more of as what's the I can't think of what it's called, but the broth where you just throw everything in it and you let it cook for 42 hours.
Yeah.
And then
we're just making Nezarec stock. It's fine.
It
makes a great stew. Great soup.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it is.
Some potatoes in and some ham. It's wonderful.
Is that what Mithrax? He found an old Earth cookbook and was like, "Oh, I see. They threw everything in and distill it over 40-something hours. Oh, this will work great. Yes, let's try this. Get me a pot. I need a pot and what is this? Chicken broth. I don't know what that is, but I need some of that." So, that's exactly what happened in that cutscene.
The thing that I think lends some credence to Nezarec being this Horus figure, it actually comes from the Nezarec Sin helmet. So
okay,
Horus triumphs over Set and restores balance to Egypt in the myth. On the Nezarec Sin helmet, we get that... let me pull up the actual text. I had it in front of me.
How dare you let it go away?
I know.
You should have that text memorized. I have Two-Tailed Fox memorized.
Okay, Two-Tailed Fox is a song.
Hey, who cares? I still have it memorized.
So Nezarec Sin says that Nezarec is the purest light, the darkest hour. He will never cower when dusk does fall, but stand vigilant as old stars die and new light blinks its first upon this fetid eternity. That you could argue that is a description of a balance between light and dark. That this is a being that is going to exist when the old ways peter out and the new ways come in. So that maybe can suggest that Nezarec could be this Horus analog, but
absolutely,
Crow's probably more likely.
Crow seems like the first choice. I think the idea of his power being a choice. I like the idea of our guardian being a choice. All of these are definite viable candidates if we're applying this old world Egyptian story to this cutscene.
Yeah. So that's kind of all I've got for that. It wasn't a grand this is all leading to this point. It was just kind of there are some similarities I think we can draw, and
absolutely,
maybe it informs us as to what might be coming.
Absolutely. So then of course the rest of the cutscene, Saint tells us of Osiris waking up and Osiris sharing memories. So that's what the fact that Osiris is sharing memories of what Savathun knows of in his head. So we learn that Savathun knows of I'm going to mess it up again.
Neomuna.
I kept For whatever reason, I keep wanting to call it Neuropa. Neoropa or something. I don't know. I don't even know why. Like the two of those don't like maybe because Europa is a moon and it's Neomuna. I don't know. And then it's Neptune, so then that just gets thrown out into nowhere land. I don't know. Anyway, so we know that Savathun knows of this colony on Neptune. But the fact that Osiris has memories here, like that to me leads more credence to think that but again, it's like what you were saying. Where does the soul of Nezarec end, and where does the power of darkness begin? And that's where like either one of those could be in that, because like what is a soul, right? Like that's the that's the big thing. And then of course we get to the end of the scene, which I absolutely love Bungie, and I love what they did in the end scene here, because this is I know it's not the first time, and I know there's stigmatism attached to this. At the end of the scene, Saint and Osiris share a kiss, and there's a stigma about it that I don't think should exist. There probably are a lot of players that are like, oh, that's why is it up there, why is it in the game, like that's whatever. But I love that Bungie is willing to show that everybody is a person, and that every person should be celebrated and should be acknowledged. And I love that Bungie did that in that scene.
Yeah, it was, I mean, these are two characters that have long been known to be in a relationship. There's tons of lore to suggest it. And so that it really shouldn't have come as a surprise to anybody. Like, if you have someone that's been in a long-term coma and it's been touch and go, and you don't know if they're going to wake up ever, like having a significant other pull through an event like that, that's a very natural response. Like that is what happens. And,
I love it. I fucking love it. That's it.
Well, there you go. Love is love, y'all.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So yeah, so that's our little thoughts on the cutscene there, and ideas of like where this thing could go. I do hope that there is more to Nezarec. I really do. But we'll see. Like again, I referenced the oh god, what is it?
Delicate Tomb,
the fusion rifle. That's right. Yeah. And the fact that it was a tomb, and that's the whole like Nezarec's tomb, or like that's so that's I think that I hope there's more to Nezarec than that. I'd love to see where Osiris is going to be. I do like the idea of Osiris being like the Strand go-to, and like the first darkness guardian, or dark bearer guardian, I guess would be the term.
Yeah, and I know in the Bungie interviews regarding Lightfall, they've said that like our guardian is the one that discovers. I don't know if they say discovers Strand, or if they just say is the first to figure out how to use it. So, but at the same time, we can discover a power and realize we can interact with that power, but still need guidance on how to utilize it, how to shape it, how to do things with it. I mean, and Osiris is a very long-lived, has a lot of experience with the light as well as other things. Like, even if he may not be the go-to for, oh, I figured out how to do this new thing with Strand, if they're trying to make us the progenitor, but he could still be the one to offer like, sagely advice about how to use it and how to go about utilizing this new tool in the best way possible.
I like it. Well, any other things other than, don't distill dead body parts into a tea. Probably not a good, and then feed that tea to another person. in a coma, unwilling. Like I don't know. There's a lot of iffy things from Mithrak's side on this.
Yeah, but no, I think that is it for our little lore short.
Alrighty. Well then, I got to think of a different ending for this one. Lore Daddies,